Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today, we'll be talking about something very important. As we all know, that today is the very important day in a way that the Kashmiri people, in fact, gave away their precious lives 89 years ago, same date in Kashmir. And that was a very peaceful protest, but the guards of the Maharaja, they opened fire. And this is such an interesting story. 22 of those people were killed who were the muezzins. They were giving the azan. So one man started, was shot. Second carried it on, was shot. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, till the 22nd who completed it. Isn't this a brilliant example of the religion, the kind of strength we have, and the kind of commitment we have? And I don't think this sort of an example doesn't even exist in the history and in other countries as well. This is the kind of sacrifice the Kashmiri people have given. That is the reason we really look upon that indigenous movement as very important. Hundreds of thousands of people have laid their lives for this. When you talk about the other atrocities committed by the Indian forces, they are beyond words. Look at the kind of demographic changes they are making, the kind of hatred they have for the Muslims in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where young girls and women are raped, youngsters are picked up and are brutally tortured and killed. No concept of elderly people, no concept of hospitals, no Wi-Fi, no external communication, and almost 1 million soldiers are there on their head to make sure that they should stay indoors, and that's how they should live. This is not a joke. When we talk about the Kashmiri cause and the Kashmiri people, there is a long list of people who have laid down their lives. Baran Wani being the latest top-notch young boy. And see the kind of momentum this particular movement has gained after his killing. Now, since it's a huge topic, we'll be throwing light on the significance and the importance of today, this particular date, which we call the 13th of July. And we'll be talking about the barbarity of the Indian forces in the occupied Kashmir. We'll also be talking about the kind of tweets the Prime Minister has, in fact, sent today. And then we'll be talking about the protests that are still going on in the Indian occupied Kashmir, illegal annexation of the IOK, and primarily when we talk about that the special status that has been taken away from the Kashmiri people. Again, we talk about the Article 370 and what exactly is going on after that. And a lot of people, a lot of analysts do believe that the Indians in that particular northern part, they are exactly following the philosophy of the Israelis. Keep occupying, keep torturing, aggression should be the main formula, and suppress the indigenous people to that level that either they die or they are killed. Simple as that. And then take over their lands, take over their property, and then just flood the non-residents there in that particular part, against the law, against United Nations and everything. But unfortunately, the dilemma is that the entire world is still silent on this, except for few top leaders, maybe Mahathir Mohamad from Malaysia, or Tayyip Erdogan from Turkey, or our Prime Minister from Pakistan, and a couple of others. That's it. We are talking about 200 countries in the world, so that is very, very important. Now, we'll also be talking about this in detail. Let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us Air Commodore retired Basit Raza Abbasi Saab. Basit Saab is a senior analyst. Air Commodore Saab, thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time and being a part of our show. We also have with us Professor Dr. Rifat Hussain Saab, who's a senior strategist analyst, and as well as he's a senior international relations expert. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for your time as well. And we will also be talking to Iltaf Hussain Wani Saab, who's a senior Kashmiri leader. He'll be joining us on the telephone. But let me start off from Air Commodore Basit Raza Abbasi Saab. Bhai Saab, 89 years ago, I've been watching these television channels throughout the day, and I was surprised to see the kind of sacrifice those people, in fact, gave. 22 people were killed. I call them muezzin, people who give azan. One started and the 22nd finished, and all of them were killed. Now, I don't see any example of that level, sir, even in the history of Islam. First of all, your take on the significance of 13th of July, sir.
This is a milestone in the struggle, the long struggle. As you very rightly pointed out, it's really almost 9 decades that this event took place. And that shows the resolve, the determination of the Kashmiri people. And I think it's an ample evidence for anybody who has eyes to see that Kashmiris are not going to let go. Whatever you do, whatever atrocities you commit, the Kashmiris will keep rising. And if one falls, there will be another, and then another, and then another. So this is an ample evidence of that. And that over the years we have seen that whatever the aggressions, whatever have been the atrocities committed by the Indian troops, first the Dogras and after that the followers, the Indian troops, it has not dimmed the struggle of the Kashmiris. In fact, each and every of episodes like this has only heightened their desire for freedom and to get rid of the yoke of Indian hegemony. And let me also say that, first of all, we all pay our deepest respect and tribute and salute the martyrs from that day till today. And it includes all of them. Burhan Wani is the latest symbol and icon of that. And this brilliant struggle goes on unabated despite all the atrocities committed by the occupying forces, the Indian troops. And that gives me the idea, and that should be seen by the world also, that although they are not, they are sort of trying to look the other way, but the realities are not going to vanish. The Kashmiris will keep falling and they will be keep rising to fight their battle until its ultimate logical end, which is freedom for the Indian occupation. What I am encouraged is by the fact that there was a time that the Indians have very boldly and sort of successfully played the mantra of this resolution of bilateral disputes, border disputes, through bilateral negotiations. And if you look at the picture now, it's very obvious that India has dispute with every country. It has dispute with China, it has dispute with Nepal, it has dispute with Bhutan, and even some a partnership with the country like Bangladesh, which had a friendly posture towards India for a few years, is also now complaining about the intransigence of the Indians. So that game that played successfully over the years is now actually is being exposed, and that we have seen very recently that Nepal has sort of come out and complained against the Indian not settlement of Kalapani area and their construction of a road through this area, which leads from New Delhi to it can take their trips right up to Tibet, the Indian troops. So all these things are becoming obvious, and I'm very sure that the time is not far away when this valiant, this brilliant struggle of the Kashmiris will lead to its logical conclusion, which is freedom for the yoke of Indian hegemony, inshallah.
I mean, that's a very well explained point, sir. Now, let me go to Dr. Rifat Saab. Rifat Saab, you've been teaching, you've been reading about it, you've been giving lectures, and you've been a part of so many programs also when it comes to Kashmir issue. Now, sir, looking at the current situation, looking at one of the very important points raised by Air Commodore Saab, that India has disputes not only in Kashmir, with the Chinese, with the Nepalese, with people in Bhutan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, you name it, even Sri Lankans, Maldives, you name it, everyone who is around them has an issue with them. But unfortunately, sir, this is the first time that we have seen the Indians really retrieving back and in fact listening to the terms and conditions given by the Chinese and in Ladakh region. But when it comes to those countries which the Indians believe are comparatively less strong, or maybe these are the countries Indians can actually dominate on them. But when it comes to Pakistan, we always tell them to talk on equal terms. When we talk about negotiations, wherever negotiations are important, they go for it. Imagine from the top to the colonel level meetings regarding the Ladakh issue. But when it comes to Kashmir cause or the Kashmir problem, they are not even ready to talk. Now, these are the double standards the Kashmiris, the Indians inside Kashmiri area, they have. Why is that so, sir? Because Pakistan or the other countries or the Kashmiris themselves are weak as compared to the Chinese.
Well, Faisal, it's not a question of Pakistan being weak. Of course, we are a smaller country and we desire peace and development for not only between India and Pakistan, but also in the region. But that should not translate into our accepting India's political and military hegemony over South Asia. And India always runs away from Pakistan or it runs away from negotiating with Pakistanis because they know that one, that Pakistan has a legitimate claim over the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and Pakistan is a legitimate stakeholder in this conflict. So, whenever we will engage in a conversation with the Indians, the Kashmir issue has to be addressed. Now, you would recall that at the time of the Agra, the system was devised whereby they said that look, we would like to talk about Kashmir, and the Indians asked for it that we would like to discuss cross-border terrorism. So under peace and security basket, both countries agreed to talk about Kashmir as well as cross-border terrorism, and Indians would always would like to give preference to it. But that didn't take off, and Musharraf's out of the box thinking failed miserably to convince the Indians. But Pakistan kept its hopes alive, and beyond Agra, we also engaged until recently. I would say until 2004, we continued to harbor the illusion that we would be able to talk to the Indians and we will be able to resolve all our outstanding disputes, including Kashmir, through peaceful means. But India did not see any virtue in it because whenever Pakistan would want to talk about India-Pakistan dialogue, Kashmir will be the top priority. So that's one reason why the Indians have shied away and they have closed the door of negotiations with Pakistan. They have closed the door shut. So the question now is that at the time in 2004, the Kashmir issue was not coming to the boil. Now the Indians have a much bigger problem on their hand because the world sees that the Indians are continuing the under the Indian state oppression, state sanctioned violence, and the Kashmiris are up in arms. And no amount of concessions by the Indian side would pacify the Kashmiris, particularly Kashmiri Muslims, resentment against the Indian rule. So the Indians are now, they do not know where to go because there is a Kashmir is a problem, is like a bone in the throat. They cannot swallow it or they cannot vomit it. So that is the problem that the Indian state is faced with. And of course, the Kashmiris struggle. We are talking about the tributes to them. My hats off to them for waging a valiant struggle and a brave struggle, and which over 100,000 Kashmiri lives have been lost, and and the Indian women, the Kashmiri women have paid their have paid have compromised their honor in trying to defend their fundamental right, which is about their self-determination. So in that scenario, India is now claiming that after they introduced did away with the Article 370 and 35A, so the India is embarking upon a new policy, which is to trying to absorb the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir into the Indian Union, and they have taken the ultimate step, which has brought them into conflict with their neighbor China. So, because of this situation, the Indians are not willing to talk to Pakistan, or they are not willing to come to the negotiating table, and the pressure, international pressure, is mounting on them, even though the Security Council has yet to open a public debate on this issue. But there have been closed door sessions in which China along with Pakistan and some of Pakistan supporters, they are putting pressure on the Indian government. Now the
All right.
question is that when the COVID-19 has broken out in India, and in this
Uh,
situation the Kashmiris
Dr. Saab, Dr. Saab, if
suffering.
you allow me, we've also been joined in by Iltaf Hussain Wani Saab, senior Hurriyat leader, and we'll be also talking to him. And we'll also be telling you about the tweets of the Prime Minister Imran Khan. But first, Burhan Wani Saab's 5th August, I mean, something very important. 5th August is going to be another very important day. Today is the 13th of July. Now, Wani Saab, looking at the significance and the importance of today, the Prime Minister, in fact, said that on Yodhai Kashmir, he said, "We salute Kashmiris for the continued struggle against the illegal and barbaric Indian occupation of Jammu and Kashmir. The Shoda of 13th July 1931 were the forefathers of today's Kashmiri resistance." He further added that their descendants have generation after generation laid down their lives for the freedom, and today they continue to valiantly fight and defy a Hindutva supremacist regime bent on the demographic engineering to wipe out the Kashmiri people and their identity. And further added that Pakistan has always stood steadfast for the Kashmiri right to self-determination and will continue to support this just struggle till the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir is liberated from the clutches of the Indian illegal occupation. The day is not far. Wani Saab, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show. First of all, your take on the Prime Minister's tweet. Let's see what you have to say, sir.
Sorry, I could not hear the Prime Minister's tweet, but I could realize that Prime Minister of Pakistan has been advocating the cause of Kashmir at each and every fora, and whatever time he gets, he does tweet on it, and he shows his concern for the people of Kashmir and makes the international community realize about the realities on ground in Indian-occupied Kashmir. The people of Kashmir are very thankful to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan for taking each and every platform to raise the voice for the people of Kashmir who are under subjugation of Indian rule.
Now, in fact, I was reading about the history of 1931's this massacre, I would say, where the Maharaja's forces killed innocent civilians in such a way that they were the Mohsens, right? Now, sir, that really, in fact, gave me a lot of encouragement. And I said, what brilliant people, what valiant and brave men were those. I mean, you can't get that kind of an example. And I tell you, Wani Saab, if you have the history based on such characters, I tell you one thing, Prime Minister is not wrong when he says that the day is not far when the Kashmiris will get the freedom and this struggle is going to be something which the Indians have never seen before. So the way during the last 1 year after the martyrdom of Wani Saab, tell us that how different the freedom struggle is now. What sort of a momentum it has gained during the last 1 year, or let me put it this way, post 5th August 2019.
See, Faisal, first of all, let me tell you that the people of Kashmir have been rendering their sacrifice since 1930. Firstly, it was against the oppressive rule of Maharaja of Kashmir, then against the Indian occupation. And the struggle has been heroic on the part of people of Kashmir, though the international community did its part to come to the rescue of people of Kashmir. Now, coming to the current situation in Indian-occupied Kashmir after the August 5th, we have seen that the unilateral decision which government of India took, as Dr. Rifat was also talking about it, the way they tried to assimilate the whole Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir in Indian Union, dismantling the state, and then introducing a series of laws and other sets of laws to demonize the people of Kashmir. Now, the people of Kashmir have not given up. They have risen against the Indian oppression. They are risen against all these, whatever the legal framework they have introduced. They are trying their best to counter this. But we have seen that Indian oppression is there. From August 5th till date, over 500 people have been killed and thousands have been incarcerated in different jails, all political leadership in jails. The Indians not only enacted the new domicile law to change the demography in Kashmir, and they are handing over domiciles to the Indian people in Kashmir and are targeting the Jammu region first. They have their own reasons for that. And also, at the same time, they have enacted a new education policy in Kashmir, that is to rewrite the history of Kashmir. The local history will be rewritten in the textbooks, and the new generation of Kashmiris, so the new generation of Kashmiris could not know about their history, as they did for this day, the Martyrs' Day, Kashmir Martyrs' Day, which is being commemorated today. The occupation authorities deleted in their calendar, as it was marked over there also by the state government. The puppet government also used it to mark this day as a Martyrs' Day, but this was deleted in the calendar. And the same way, they are trying to delete each and everything of our history in Kashmir.
That's
so
how
that
you
coming
distort history,
generations
sir.
could not.
That's how history is removed. That's why the books are burnt. That's why the data is always, taken away from the new generations or the young generations, so that do not know what exactly is going on. Now, Wikipedia is going to take over. The other narrative is going to be the name of the game. Unfortunately, this is what is happening now. Brigadier Saab, Air Commodore Saab, and when we talk about the Indians are following a formula that is totally something, it seems as if the Israelis are dictating them what to do, what not to do, and how to do. We have seen the same aggression the Israelis have over the Palestinians, forceful land occupation, killings. They don't care whether it's a woman or a child or an elderly, a civilian. The way they in fact kill, it seems as if they're not even humans. That is something which is bothering us, and it seems that the larger design of the Hindutva concept, the Akhand Bharat concept, is not only limited to Kashmir, sir. They want to add Pakistan, they want to even add Afghanistan, and then on the other side, Bangladesh for that matter, and a couple of other countries on the northern side. Now, if this is the formula of the Indians, that means that no matter what, peace is never going to prevail in this region. Sir.
That's true. Actually, it's a very diseased mindset. What Indian leadership is having, it's a very, very diseased mindset. This Hindutva ideology, look, a country like India, which is such a diverse polity, there are so many languages spoken, there are so many religions, so many ethnicities. This needs a glue, a bonding force. And secularism was that force. Unfortunately, that they have actually got rid of this very glue which could bond them together. And the only result, the natural outcome of it is disintegration. And that's what we are seeing. And these steps, the Indian leadership, what they are doing, one after another, is actually increasing sign of frustration, because they take an action, it fails. Like, I can quote you 100 examples. Take the example of Balakot. They came here and they thought they would please their public, and they ended up with a bloody nose. They sort of tried to transgress in Doklam. They got a bloody nose there. And recently, with China, at Pangong So and at Galwan Valley and Hot Spring, all these places, they lost 20 soldiers there. So this is actually, they are taking more and more and more drastic steps. And the results are, again, nothing but failure. And their frustration is increasing, and that's what we see. But inshallah, as I see, their game is being exposed, and they're going to suffer because they own these foolish designs and these aggressive postures. And I'm very sure that when they did away with the Article 370 of the Constitution, they thought they had closed the issue of Kashmir. But look at its outcome. Not only Pakistan, Pakistan was already a victim and always at sort of loggerhead with India. But this time, China got more offended than anyone else. And that's what we just seen last month what happened in the month of May and June. It's a very clear sign that the Chinese cannot tolerate this kind of thing. So now the game is actually closing. And let me also tell you that since last 4 years, since Donald Trump came into power, Indians seem to be having a very successful foreign policy of isolating Pakistan. And for nearly 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency, Indian policy seemed very successful, and Pakistan was being isolated. But after 2 years, things have one after another events have took place. Look at the prominent place we got in Afghanistan, and look at our positive role that world has recognized in our efforts at resolving the Afghan dispute and to sort of give provide an exit to the invading troops, the U.S. troops, and let the legitimate government be formed in Afghanistan. And Pakistan has a central role in that. So instead of being isolated, we actually got a spotlight. We got onto the center stage. And this is frustrating the Indians. They see that whatever step they are taking, instead of giving any advantage to them, they're all turning out to be for their disadvantage. And this is what happens when you have a disease mindset. You are not ready to correct your mistakes. You make a mistake, and instead of correcting itself, you make another mistake.
Dr. Rifat Saab, I'll just get back to you, Comrade sir. Dr. Rifat Saab, when we talk about the demographic changes, we have learned that a lot of, in thousands actually, these letters have been issued to pundits, to all the non-resident Kashmiris who are being settled there, whether and from various religions, not particularly any one religion, but Hindus primarily, extremists again, and the domiciles are being given them, residents are being given them, land that is been also allocated to certain people and certain families also. Primarily, the demographic changes are taking place on daily basis, and they are picking up as the time is passing. So let's suppose after another 5 years or so, if the same continues and the Indians keep on lingering this issue for another 5-7 years and keep on changing the demographics till they are told that now if the referendum is held, for example, it can practically go in India's favor, sir. This is exactly what sort of a mind set they have at the moment. Don't you think each passing day is basically a huge threat for the Kashmir cause?
Well, Faisal, what you are saying has a large element of truth in it, because there are two aspects to the current Indian policy in Kashmir. One is a softer policy, the approach that you have just suggested, by bringing slowly but irretrievably a gradual demographic change in the composition of the population, so they might be able to change the balance, particularly in a already predominated Hindu Jammu area where the Hindus are in majority. But the real problem is going to be the Vale of Kashmir, because the Kashmiris, they have lived there for centuries, and everybody knows there's a phenomenon of Kashmiriyat, which means that the Kashmiris are very loyal to their territory, and it will be very difficult, almost impossible, for the Indian state to dislodge the Kashmiris and populate them with the minorities of their choice. That's one. The other element is that the Indians would not like to pursue this soft policy if it fails, but they are pursuing a hard policy, which is the annexation of the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir to the Indian Union. And that is something which rubbed the Chinese on the wrong side, because they saw what the Indians had done to Ladakh area, and they saw the Indian design that this annexation was meant to solidify India's territorial hold over the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir. So either way, my sense is that neither the soft policy of settling people with the citizenship rights into Jammu area or Kashmir is going to work, nor is going to be their hard policy, because the Chinese have taught them a lesson. They have given them a black eye and a bloody nose, and the Indians are now smarting under the specter of a defeat at the hands of the Chinese, and Chinese are putting tremendous pressure on India, so that and hopefully Modi government will come to their senses. So they will see the futility of the attack that they have done in Balakot against Pakistan, and they have suffered these defeats. So whatever the Indian government is trying to do is leading to the counterproductive consequences for their foreign policy.
So but don't you think, I mean, this is our narrative that this is counterproductive, but in general, if you look at the Indians' point of view, or you listen to some of their pro-government analysts also, they believe that everything is going on so smoothly and there is no problem because there is a lot of presence of the forces, so the civilian Muslims can't come out. We all know the kind of atrocities that are being committed on those poor souls. And again, the aggression of the Indian forces, I mean, you don't get such examples. But yet, having said that, sir,
Faisal,
I mean, don't
I
you think
agree.
that we should not take it lightly? Because when you talk about the demographic changes, sir, when you talk about the universities, colleges, and the kind of incentives, or because I'm in fact trying to also portray their point of view, that education, scholarships all over India, and so much is going on. For example, the transporters who used to be the major part of the protests always, I mean, they are being held, and those who do not agree, the stick formula exists. Those who are at a very marginal level, they are either forced, or they are compelled, or they are bought. That's also happening, creating differences within the ranks of the Kashmiri leadership, sir.
Yes, Faisal, that is their strategy is to weaken the weaken the Kashmiri freedom struggle by trying to sow uh, seeds of discord in their ranks. But we have seen this, that when it comes to the sentiment of the Kashmiriyat or sentiment of freedom, there is a regardless of the differences, everybody is united in the demand that they do not want to stay with the Indian Union. So given that overwhelming sentiment, whatever India would do will not lead to any successful policy. And the other thing that I should mention is that this is not
All right, all right.
misled by this.
There is some problem with the connection, I suppose, Dr. Saab. Let me put this question to Wani Saab. Now, Wani Saab, would you like to answer the same point, that the demographic changes will not take place? They're already taking place. It's a matter of time. India announces that, see, we always used to say that the favor is in our side. But reality is very different. But that reality is being changed on daily basis. Wani Saab, this is the biggest threat, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is the biggest threat. But as Dr. Saab was also telling you that Indians are targeting, they have a reason to target the Jammu region, which is already a most Hindu-dominated area. They are targeting that, and they want to, by delimitation of the assembly segments, they want to raise the number of assembly segments from the Jammu, and at the end of the day, they would like to have a Hindu chief minister in Kashmir. As Dr. Saab was true that in Kashmir Valley, they will face resistance for that, and that's why the Indians won't allow to live in Kashmir, despite the repression which we have there, despite the army there. They will have to bring more and more army. They can't give each and every person, Indian and army men, to guard them. So that is the problem with them, because in past we also defeated their desires to construct the Sainik colonies, their desires to construct separate townships for Kashmiri Pandits and all that. That has been resisted by the people of Kashmir. But At the end of the day, what they are doing, they are in that. You see, it is not hundreds and thousands. I already stated earlier in some interviews that according to this new domicile law, which they have enacted at the present, 200,000 Indians are eligible to have the domicile of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. That means more than a fourth of the population is coming from the outside of Jammu and Kashmir. So it's automatically demographic change. And officers are asked to issue the certificate within 14 days. And if any officer fails to issue that certificate, he will be fined more than 50,000 rupees. So the officers are also issuing it at rapid speed. That's true. But at the same time, if we should not say that sometime India will say that, let's have the Taliban in Kashmir. India has never in mind. If there is an international pressure on India, if the international community intervenes in it, if there are other factors that intervene in it, then there is international law that anybody, that UN Security Council resolutions, that no material change, whatever takes place after the resolutions were passed on 5th of January in 1949, that those people who were state subjects at that time, those people have the right to live over there. And also when we have the right to return of the refugees who are in Pakistan and different parts of the world, the Kashmiris who are not able to return. So then they will have also the right to return. These are different things if India comes to that. I don't think India has in any mind to hold a plebiscite in Kashmir. They will carry on with this carrot and stick policy in Kashmir. On one hand, they will try to create wedges in the ranks and files of the leadership. They will try to put them in the jails. And today you'll see Sarai and others, they have been lodged and booked under Public Safety Act. They are putting each and every leader. There is no leader outside now from the freedom camp to lead the moment. What they are trying, they try to create situations among the pro-freedom camps, Indian camps, but they also failed. And also they are facing a problem in Jammu also. The Dogras of Jammu has risen up. They are again up against the arms that they don't want this domicile law because this threatens the very existence of the Dogras, the very identity of the Dogras, or they are against this. So the constituency of resistance in Kashmir have increased despite the Indian aggression, despite the constitutional warfare which they have unleashed in Kashmir.
All right, last 2 minutes, sir. I want Air Commander Saab, you yourself, as well as Dr. Saab and Wani Saab, to give a message to the Kashmiris on this very important day, sir, the 13th of July. Air Commander Saab.
Our brothers Kashmiris, brothers and sisters Kashmiris, I would like to say that we respect and salute your valiant struggle. And on our part, the people and government of Pakistan will do everything to support you in whatever way possible, morally and on all diplomatic fronts. And I think this is a message for our people and government also, that we need to redouble our efforts. The Kashmiris are actually under the Indian yoke, but we are free. We are free to go and we are free to take action. So we must take those actions. We must knock at every door and not leave any stone unturned to support the Kashmiris in their valiant struggle. And that's what I want to tell the
Dr. Rifat Hussain Saab.
In the same vein, I would like to tell my brothers and sisters and mothers in Kashmir of Pakistan's deep desire to help freedom, help them gain their right to self-determination, which they have been denied for ever since 1947. And Pakistani government and the people of Pakistan, I must say, people of Pakistan stand in total solidarity and with you. And please do not lose hope. And because as Nelson Mandela's life underscores that they can put you in prison, but they cannot lock you from having your freedom. So keep the your hopes alive, and that's the central message I would like to convey to the Kashmiris.
A beautiful message from Nelson Mandela, sir. A very, very, I think one of the top-notch leaders of the world. Vani Saab, your take, sir.
My message to my Kashmiri brethren, you see, the occupation has to end. Sooner or later, the tyrants will be brought to justice. But we have to keep memorizing the martyrs who laid their lives for a noble cause. Keep memorizing them and have faith in yourself. And the occupation has to end, and it will end. Pakistan is with us, and sooner or later, the international community will wake up from the deep sleep and support people of Kashmir in their just struggle.
Thank you very much, Commodore Basit, Dr. Rifat Hussain Saab, and Iltaf Hussain Vani Saab for your time and your contribution in today's program. And that's all we have for this hour. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Long live Pakistan.